Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea and the countries along the Mekong River hold their first summit in Busan, issuing a joint declaration that they'll build closer ties in business, sustainability, security, and more. South Korea and ASEAN wrap up their summit as well, a boost for President Moon's new Southern policy and a blueprint for another 30 years of cooperation with Southeast Asia. And President Trump says the U.S. is right on the cusp of reaching a trade deal with China. At the same time, he reiterates support for the protesters in Hong Kong. It's 4:00 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. The first ever summit between South Korea and the Mekong countries produced the Mekong-Han River Declaration, an agreement hoped to be the foundation of future cooperation between the two sides. Notably, they agreed on concrete steps designating 7 key areas of cooperation. Our Park Hee-jun has the details.
South Korea and the 5 Mekong nations have agreed to focus their cooperation on 7 key areas, including culture, agriculture, ICT, and security. In the Mekong-Han River Declaration, adopted during the very first MEKONG-KOREA Summit on Wednesday, South Korea, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam chose 7 areas of concentrated cooperation. They included designation of the year 2021 as the Mekong-Korea Exchange Year to promote culture and tourism and celebrate the 10th anniversary of their cooperation. Seoul will also share with Mekong its experiences related to agriculture, infrastructure, and technology, encouraging business exchanges in these fields. And to construct a more peaceful and safer Mekong region, they will strengthen cooperation in water resources management, biodiversity, and forest management. The two sides will also jointly respond to issues like climate change, natural disasters, drug trafficking, and cybercrime.
한메콩 협력의 새로운 원년으로 기억될 오늘, 우리는 한메콩 관계를 획기적으로 발전시켜 나갈 초석을 마련했습니다. 정상회의의 결과 문서로 채택한 한강 메콩강 선언은 경제 협력을 넘어 사람 중심의 평화와 번영의 동반자로 가는 이정표가 되어줄 것입니다.
Also discussed at the gathering was President Moon's plan to turn the demilitarized zone into a global peace zone. Acknowledging that peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula is essential to their co-prosperity, the Mekong nations reaffirmed their support for the president's peace initiative. And through active trade, South Korea and the Mekong region were able to record a trade volume of $84.5 billion, more than double that of 2011. They plan to further promote free trade and investment, resisting protectionism, and upholding a transparent, free, and inclusive multilateral trading system. South Korea and Mekong countries have agreed to meet every year on the sidelines of ASEAN-related summits. They will continue to deepen their partnership based on this joint declaration until they meet again in Vietnam next year. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News, Busan.
And after their summit, President Moon, together with the leaders of the 5 Mekong countries, attended a special exhibition on what they've achieved together in terms of research on and conservation of biological resources. Kim Mo-gyun tells us more.
On the sidelines of the first MEKONG-KOREA Summit, a special exhibition on the biological resources of the Mekong region has been held to look back at the past 12 years of cooperation between South Korea and the Mekong states in the biological sector. Under the theme Life on the Mekong, Connecting People, Creating a New Future, the exhibition features various videos and real specimens of the rich flora and fauna of the Mekong region, as well as achievements of cooperative projects between Mekong nations and South Korea. On display are some 200 species of wildlife from the Mekong region, including donated specimens from each Mekong country, as well as biological resources secured through joint research and illustrated books jointly published by researchers in the region. South Korean President Moon Jae-in toured by the exhibition hall together with the heads of the Mekong states, and during his joint press statement after the tour, he vowed to help preserve the biodiversity of the Mekong region and support the region's efforts to have a sustainable future.
우리는 메콩강 유역을 둘러싼 초국경 위협에 공동 대응하고 생물 다양성, 수자원, 산림 분야 협력을 강화하기로 했습니다.
President Moon also said the countries will establish the Mekong-Korea Biodiversity Center and the Mekong-Korea Water Resources Joint Research Center to better conserve and utilize biological resources and work together to ensure the sustainability of the Mekong River. The National Institute of Biological Resources, the host of the event, says that it hopes the displays could help visitors gain more interest and learn about the biodiversity in the Mekong region. The special exhibition will be open to the public from November 30th to December 27th. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News, Busan.
President Moon says that despite the obstacles, South Korea cannot give up its dream of becoming what he calls a bridge nation that connects neighboring powers. In a social media post after wrapping up the Busan meetings, President Moon said that as a bridge nation, Korea can help bring about peace and prosperity. And as the start of that goal, he pointed to Busan as a city linking land and sea. The president also highlighted the ASEAN countries' great potential for growth, reiterating that economic cooperation with them will bring great benefits for future generations. Of course, South Korea and the ASEAN member states have wrapped up their summit, which was a chance for both sides to explore the potential they have for economic growth and development based on Southeast Asia's abundant natural and human resources. Our Hong Yu looks at what the summit accomplished.
Through the commemorative summit, 3 declarations have been signed promising peace and co-prosperity. South Korea and ASEAN came up with a common blueprint for their next 30 years of trade, investment, and human resource exchanges. And with the Mekong-Han River Declaration signed on Wednesday, South Korea and the 5 Mekong countries hope to establish their own partnership for people, prosperity, and peace. South Korea is committed to helping develop rural areas in the Mekong region through various cooperative projects. Using Korea's Economic Development Cooperation Fund, it plans to promote regional connectivity by advancing infrastructure in the Mekong region. ICT-driven projects are planned to help bring the region a step closer to the digital economy. The 2 parties will also stimulate deeper interaction between small and medium-sized enterprises and startup companies to allow efficient business and create investment opportunities across the region. Through the diplomatic events that took place in Busan, South Korea could secure solid support from ASEAN for the new Southern policy that will help develop both regions over the next 30 years. Now, with help from ASEAN as well as companies and experts from the region, the government plans to promote the new Southern Policy 2.0 starting from 2021. Hong Yu, Arirang News, Busan.
Hyundai Motor has announced it's going to invest more than $1.5 billion in a new factory in Indonesia to target the local market now dominated by Japanese carmakers. The new plant will enable Hyundai to avoid import tariffs in the ASEAN region and help secure future growth amid slowing demand. Park Se-young has this story.
Hyundai Motor has announced that it will build a manufacturing plant in Indonesia that will be able to produce 250,000 units a year. This will be the carmaker's first car plant in Southeast Asia, and the deal comes amid a prolonged sales downturn in China. The new plant will be located in Daltamas, Bekasi, an industrial area 40 kilometers east of Jakarta. Hyundai Motor said it will invest approximately $1.55 billion in the new factory from now until 2030, including product development and operation costs. The new facility will break ground this December, and it will start producing in late 2021 with an annual capacity of 150,000 vehicles. Hyundai plans to gradually increase the output volume to 250,000 units a year, depending on market demand. It plans to produce small SUVs, compact minivans, and electric vehicles specifically designed for the Southeast Asian market at the new plant.
By exploring new markets like ASEAN's largest auto market in Indonesia, we will secure our future growth.
Vehicles assembled at the Indonesian plant will be exempt from import tariffs, which range from 5% to 80% in the ASEAN region. The plant will cater to the automobile market in Southeast Asia, which is currently dominated by Japanese carmakers and is expected to grow from over 3 million units in 2017 to 4.5 million in 2026. Indonesia is the biggest automobile market in the ASEAN region, selling nearly 1.2 million vehicles last year. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Myanmar State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi has asked for the Myanmar boy band Project K to train in South Korea. This was in a meeting Tuesday between Suu Kyi and President Moon on the sidelines of the ASEAN-Korea Summit. President Moon said nurturing Project K could symbolize stronger cultural cooperation between the two countries, and he promised to look into programs that support foreign idol groups. Project K from Myanmar perform in the K-pop style. In Seoul last month, they won second prize in the K-pop International Cover Dance Competition. South Korea is planning to bring the latest smart technologies like virtual reality and 5G to Southeast Asia as their governments look to deepen cooperation in ICT. Oh Soo-young has more.
This virtual reality experience zone in Seoul offers a leap into the future, where people can immerse themselves in experiences and places that are in real life beyond their reach. From car racing to sports and battle games, the booths here run on KT Corporation's latest digital gadgets, and the graphics run seamlessly on its super-fast mobile network. This is just one of the ways that South Korean IT firms are partnering with countries in the ASEAN bloc to build digital infrastructure and also incorporate state-of-the-art technologies into everyday life. In August this year, a VR centre was also set up in Malaysia through a joint venture with a local company, bringing the latest immersive gadgets and entertainment to the local population. Not only that, but the space encourages the growth of the local content industry.
It's a testbed and a gateway to the regional market via neighbouring countries like Singapore and Vietnam. Developers can test their own VR content at the centre to see the reaction from visitors, who can benefit from the latest digital gadgets and entertainment.
Mobile and IT giants have been expanding their businesses in the ASEAN region.
We are partnering with ASEAN countries to set up cables, satellites, communications infrastructure, and services for broadcast and media as well. We also have solutions for all sectors related to the Fourth Industrial Revolution, including communications, energy, health, and public safety.
Korea's advanced IT know-how and its world-first 5G mobile network is expected to contribute to building digital infrastructure and smart cities in ASEAN countries.
Korean firms can help overcome infrastructure needs and gaps for social development with their strength in mobile network technology and data science. Smart cities based on the Internet of Things will help bridge the gap as rapid urbanization proceeds in ASEAN countries.
There's huge potential for a vibrant IT and content market in ASEAN countries as they are jumping straight into wireless networks and smartphones rather than first transitioning to landlines like Korea did.
Korea's ICT programs in ASEAN countries will also include nurturing talent, training young people and professionals, especially women in digital skills and literacy, to encourage technological advancement and entrepreneurship. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yu Hye-mi, Professor of Economics at Hanyang University. Professor Yu, thank you for making time today.
Thank you.
So we have just wrapped up the first ever Korea-Mekong Summit. What do you think the economic impact will be of this Mekong-Han River Declaration?
Currently, these 5 nations around Mekong River account for 20% of Korea's official development assistance. As a result of this cooperation plan between Korea and these 5 nations, we can expect a large economic benefit by extending the market for Korean enterprises. First of all, there is a growing demand for development projects around Mekong River. Korea's firms can participate in these development projects. Secondly, Korean pop culture earned increasing attention from these nations. As we strengthen the tie with these Mekong nations, we can increase the number of tourists visiting Korea from these countries and potentially create large demand for Korean goods, I think.
Certainly a lot of potential. In other news, we see the Chinese government, in response to U.S. demands, it said it's intensifying its protection of intellectual property rights. Stocks continue to see gains on optimism for a trade deal. But what's happening in the markets today?
Not only the Chinese government's announcement about this intellectual property rights, but also the progress in U.S.-China trade talks drove the global financial markets yesterday. This news also had a positive impact on Japanese and Korean stock market today. Nikkei index rose by 0.28% and Kospi increased by 0.31% today. However, Shanghai Composite Index and Hang Seng Index showed large volatility and dropped slightly despite the good news because China's industrial profits dropped steeply by 9.9%, there is a growing concern that the China's growth may slow down.
Yeah, and speaking of a slowdown, everybody's worried about a global economic slowdown, or at least they were in recent months. But at the same time, all the indices on Wall Street are at all-time highs. Chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, he has a positive outlook for the American economy. What's your view?
Yeah, well, it's true that there are positive signals about U.S. economy. And yeah, as you said, Fed Chair Jerome Powell gave an optimistic view about the U.S. economy. We also observed progress in U.S.-China trade talks. However, there are still lots of uncertainty around the U.S. economy. Most of all, there is a long way to go before the U.S.-China trade negotiations are completed. It's not just about trade, but about the tension between an emerging power and a leading established power. There is also uncertainty regarding upcoming elections in the United States. On top of that, various economic indicators show mixed results. Major retailers reported mixed results, and consumer confidence declined in November, so we cannot be 100% optimistic about U.S. economy.
Well, it was an impressive result yesterday for Alibaba with its IPO in Hong Kong, raising some $11 billion. The Hong Kong market, of course, has seen some major trouble this year. What's your outlook for Hong Kong?
Hong Kong stock market ultimately reflects Hong Kong economy. Because of the anti-government protests, there has been a significant drop in the number of tourists. The protest seems to last longer. Moreover, China's economic growth is slowing down, largely due to the U.S.-China trade dispute. The domestic political situation and the slowdown in China's economic growth will affect the Hong Kong economy badly. The Hong Kong stock market cannot go well alone.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But speaking of trouble, the People's Bank of China is warning of high financial risk because of external shocks. More than 13% of China's financial institutions, mostly small ones, have basically failed a test of financial stability. Why is China sending out a message like this?
The Central Bank of China reported that a lot of small and medium banks in China face a lot of risk. And they requested each bank to take various measures, such as reducing bad loans, increasing capital, etc., to contain financial risks in China. I think China is realizing that they are facing difficulties in various dimensions, not only in the trade conflict with the United States, but also in industry and financial system as well. And China is taking these issues seriously, so they are making that report, I think.
Well, last question here. Anticipation building for South Korea and Japan to start a dialogue on their mutual export restrictions. But some say this could take years to resolve. What do you think?
Of course, it will take longer because we cannot approach the issue using the principles of economics only. It began with the ruling of the Supreme Court of South Korea in 2018 regarding compensation for forced laborers from Japanese companies. The trade conflict between Japan and Korea caused the IMF and quite a few global ratings agencies to lower their forecast for Korea's economic growth. I think the government definitely wishes to resolve this issue as soon as possible. However, ahead of the general election scheduled for next April in South Korea, the Moon administration would have very limited discretion about the situation. Any measures taken by the government may affect the voter sentiment in an unexpected way. So it will definitely take longer than we expect.
All right, Professor Yu, that's where we'll have to leave it for today. Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
Now, South Korea and the U.S. are widely expected to hold another meeting on defense cost sharing early next month. South Korean media outlets citing foreign ministry officials in Seoul are reporting that the fourth round of talks will be held in Washington. At the most recent round last week in Seoul, the U.S. delegation walked out. It's believed the Trump administration has asked South Korea next year to pay 5 times what it currently pays for a sum of more than $5 billion, a demand that's sparked criticism not only from South Korea but also within the U.S. Seoul is said to have argued for a marginal increase from this year's $884 million, which was already an 8.2% increase from the year before. According to a new book, President Trump has claimed that if the U.S. had gone to war with North Korea under the previous administration, up to 100 million people could have died. He also said that the United States is spending too much money on defending South Korea. Our Choi Jung-yoon reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump's thoughts on North Korea and defense sharing costs with Seoul were revealed in a book, Inside Trump's White House, written by Doug Wedd. In an interview for the book, Trump estimated as many as 100 million people would have been killed if the U.S. had gone to war with the North under the previous Obama administration, and that it would have happened if Obama had stayed in the office. He didn't give specific reasons on such comments. Trump added that Seoul is very close to the border of the North and about 30 million people are living there while the North has a wide range of weapons. Trump also said that North Korea doesn't need a nuclear weapon to create one of the greatest calamities in history, and that such catastrophe would have happened if Trump himself hadn't gone in strong on the North at the start of his term. According to the author, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un seeks to formally end the Korean War, which ended in an armistice, not a peace treaty. The book also mentioned Trump's negative thoughts on sharing defense costs. Mentioning the Terminal High Altitude Area defense system placed in South Korea, Trump claimed that the U.S. was giving too much and was getting nothing. Trump also complained to Wedd that the rich allies are, quote, ripping off the U.S. and around $4.5 billion are spent to defend South Korea every year. 최정윤, Arirang News.
The U.S. and China are nearing a deal to end their trade war, according to President Trump. Speaking at the White House on Tuesday, Trump said Washington was in the final throes of work on a deal, which he said would be one of the most important ones ever. However, Trump also underscored Washington's support for the pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong, which observers say could have an impact on relations with China. But Trump reiterated his good relationship with Chinese President Xi Jinping, saying he expects Xi will ensure a positive outcome in Hong Kong. A 6.4 magnitude earthquake hit Albania on Tuesday, leaving at least 21 people dead and 600 others injured. The tremor struck just northwest of the capital, Tirana, just before 4 a.m. Tuesday local time, destroying homes and bringing several strong aftershocks. Tuesday's earthquake has been described as the strongest one to hit the country in almost a century. Albania's prime minister promised that rescue operations would continue patiently and thoroughly to the end. And the European Commission said it had deployed rescue teams from Italy, Greece, and Romania to boost the search efforts. The UN has designated a new global observance to raise awareness about air pollution. September 7th will be known as the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. In fact, the idea of such a day was first proposed by South Korean President Moon Jae-in. Lee Sung-jae reports.
At the UN Climate Action Summit convened by the UN Secretary-General in September, South Korean President Moon Jae-in proposed the designation of an International Day for Blue Skies. Fast forward to Tuesday, and the Second Committee of the UN General Assembly adopted the resolution by consensus. Officially called the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, September 7th will mark a day to raise awareness about air pollution around the world and to strengthen international cooperation and efforts to reduce pollution. It's also the first International Day proposed by South Korea and enacted by the UN, and the first air pollution-related resolution passed by the Second Committee of the UN General Assembly. 22 countries, including South Korea, the US, and Israel, took part in the joint proposal. The resolution emphasizes the significant risk to the environment and human health caused by air pollution worldwide. However, Jo Hyun, the permanent representative of South Korea to the UN, says the resolution is just the beginning and not the end point, adding the true value of the decision depends on what the international community does to solve the issue. Lee Sung-jae, Arirang News.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.